Hello travelers from around the world. In the previous video, we visited Cantabria. Excuse me, which way to Santander? This way? Finally, we've reached the final point of our itinerary on our trip around Spain, the Basque Country. Here you will find one of the best cuisines in the world, picturesque beaches surrounded by nature and many examples of avant-garde architecture. So let's go! The Basque Country is full of iconic sights and incredible landscapes that look like they're straight out of a movie. If you want to get to know Euskal Herría better, keep watching this video because today we will show you some of the magical places that are definitely worth visiting in the Basque Country. Our first stop is Legato, a traditional fishing village that is definitely worth visiting. Legato has a magical beach which, at low tide, reveals a path that leads to the island of San Nicolás. As this island stands apart from the village, it was used to keep people suffering from leprosy separated. Imagine that! One of the legends about the island says that in ancient times, people with leprosy were sent there so they wouldn't infect the rest of Legato's inhabitants. Well, let's try to get to the island. As I've mentioned, we can walk there along this little path. I've been warned that it's a little dangerous because the path is covered with moss and is very slippery. And because of that, people often fall into the water. Hope I don't fall, because this camera is not a GoPro. It can't get wet. Well, here's the path that will lead us to the island. It's true, it sure is very slippery. I have to be very careful not to fall. But the views here are fantastic. We're walking on the sea. Oh, the water's coming. Well, we've reached the island and this is the staircase we're going to take to get to the top. Follow me. Here's a little map of the island. As you can see, it's written in Basque and Spanish. The Basque language is very different from any land language. In fact, they have nothing in common at all. Finally made it to the top. And what a view! If you get to the island, I advise you to hike to the top because the views from here are incredible. Look at that! Oh my gosh! Well, that's it. Now I'm heading back to the mainland the same way I came here. As you can see, the waves are crashing onto the path. So I'm walking like a penguin so I don't fall down. I've been thinking that with all the stories about leprosy and the large number of people who must have died there, this island is surely cursed. Imagine what it would be like to stay there overnight all alone. For centuries, this town was known for whaling. Then, in the 17th and 18th centuries, the whales began to disappear. But fishing and other maritime activities continued to be an integral part of life in Legato. Very cool. Thanks. We've come across a local festival, and as you can see, the streets are bustling with activity. Right now, we're looking for the Santa Catalina Lighthouse. The Santa Catalina Lighthouse, which you see behind me, is famous for three things. First, it was the first lighthouse in the Basque Country that allowed tourists to visit. Secondly, the lighthouse keeper lives there with his family. And thirdly, the views are fantastic here. I really like that house over there. How cool is it to have a house right on the cliff top? And look at that beautiful arch down there. It reminds me of the arch we saw at Las Catedrales Beach. Another interesting fact is that Christopher Columbus recruited the first sailors for his expedition to America in this very village. What a beautiful landscape. And if you look closely, you can even see the moon. By the way, did you know that up until 2015, there was a law in Iceland that allowed the killing of Basques? To find out the origin of this law, we have to go back to the year 1615, when a whaling station was established in the West Fjords area. The Icelanders and the Basques made an agreement by which both parties benefited from the enterprise. However, As the Basques were heading home at the end of the whaling season, a storm caused them to crash into some rocks, and they had no choice but to spend the winter in Iceland. After a month, they had some kind of conflict with the locals, and all the Basques who had stayed there were killed by order of the local authorities. After this incident, the law remained in force, generation after generation, until it was finally repealed on April 22, 2015. When Commissioner Jonas Gudmundsson was asked if he had noticed any increase in the number of Basque tourists visiting after the law was repealed, he replied, "At least it's safe for them to come here now." Our next stop is Castelugache Island. This cultural heritage site has been repeatedly recognized as one of the best attractions in Spain. It's easy to see why just by looking at it. Its incredible location, combined with the surrounding nature, its history, and tradition leaves no one indifferent. Well, let's visit this island and learn about all its secrets. Follow me! To connect this island to the mainland, they built a bridge with 2 arches and a staircase with 241 steps. Does this landscape remind you of anything? Yes, that's right. Some Game of Thrones scenes were actually filmed here. This island was where Dragonstone Castle stood, the original home of the Targaryen family. One of Season 7's most anticipated moments was filmed here, Khaleesi returning home with her dragons. Now, let's climb these 200 plus steps. As you can see, the people coming back from there look exhausted. I have seen the Cantabrian Sea many times, but this view, as well as the view from Las Catedrales Beach, are the most beautiful. Look what an incredible sight it is! The wild, untamed sea. At the top of the island lies the Chapel of San Juan de Castelugache. The original structure has not survived to this day. The first building here was built in the 9th century, and 3 centuries later, it became a monastery, which was later abandoned. Because of its strategic location, the island fell victim to numerous pirate attacks and acts of witchcraft. It has also suffered several fires. The last reconstruction was carried out in 1983. And at the top there is a bell that grants wishes. Let's see if it's true. As you're walking along this path, you don't even know where to look. Up above, where the chapel is, or to the sides, where the Cantabrian Sea lies in all its splendor. This cross was put here in 1891. There are holes in the staircase where you can put your foot. They say that if you do that, you will be cured of all your ailments. I'll put my foot here too. Maybe it will get rid of my blisters. Well, we finally got to the chapel, to Dragonstone Castle. With all those steps, it's no wonder people find it such a struggle. But look at these views. Wow. There's the bridge, the sea. And here is the chapel itself, on top of which hangs a bell, which you can ring so that God will grant you your wish. But as you can see, the rope is very high up and I can't reach it. A woman just told me that her wish is for me to carry her on my back down because she is so tired. So there you have it. We've climbed to the top, seen the chapel, and enjoyed the beautiful views. It was really worth it. Keep in mind that if you come here, you have to get tickets in advance. Otherwise, they won't let you in. Now let's go to our next destination. Zumaya, a coastal town known for its rugged cliffs, is a must if you're visiting the Basque Country. Located in a beautiful bay where the rivers of Urola and Narondo meet, the contrast between the rich greenery of the mountains and the piercing blue of the sea makes Zumaya a place that you'll never forget. Hey everyone, today we're in Zumaya. Here you can see the river. Here is a fortress. And now we're going to head to the beach to see some rock formations with a very strange name, Flish. Let's see what it is. In Zumaya, we visited the UNESCO Basque Coast Geopark. At first glance, the geopark stands out for its incredible amount of grasslands and forests of various shades of green that extend from its coastline inland. But the real interest of this place lies in its depths. The geopark's 13 kilometers of coastal cliffs are home to an impressive formation of rock layers called flysch, which, like a big encyclopedia, shows us over 60 million years of Earth's history. The guide has told us that we're very lucky because the tide is very low right now, and we can get a good look at all these rock structures that make up the base of the Flysch cliffs. This is Iberia. That is, the present-day Iberian Peninsula, which at the time was an island near Great Britain, separated from the Eurasian continent by a tropical sea. And this Iberia had neither the Pyrenees nor the Cantabrian coast. And what happened to this island? It began to rotate, and during that rotation, 40 million years ago, it collided with the Eurasian plate, with what is now known as France. And then what happened? These plates gradually began to come together, which caused all the sedimentary rocks that were on the bottom of the sea to start compressing, eventually forming the Pyrenees Mountains of today. And here in the sea, you can see what's inside the Pyrenees as if we'd cut right through them. Well, let's take a look at these layers. Like the guide said, each layer represents about 10,000 years, and they tell us the history of the Earth. The rocks over here are 50 million years old, and those over there are 100 million years old. It's certainly very interesting because if I was just passing by here, I would just think that it's some kind of unusual rock, but I would never imagine that this rock reveals 100 million years of history and that each layer represents 10,000 years. And if you go for a walk here, please be careful because rocks can fall from up the top like all these rocks on the ground here. For example, that guy you see walking over there could have a rock fall on him at any moment, so you have to be very careful. In the 1980s, iridium, which is a type of rock, was found in one of the layers here, which is normally only found in space. The scientists who found it suggested that perhaps meteorite had fallen to Earth a long time ago. But they were not taken seriously until the Chicxulub crater was found. Then the theory that it was a meteorite that caused the largest mass extinction on Earth began to gain popularity. And one more fact, one of the species that went extinct here was the ammonites, this very creature you see here. You can find a lot of their fossils here, even fossils of giant ammonites. Imagine that! It's curious because if I saw one in the sea, I would never think it was an extinct species. And if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, then you should know that many scenes from the series were filmed right here on this beach. Very cool, and to finish our visit, we're going to see a small chapel. Let's go and take a look. It's very difficult to walk here because, as you can see, even the ground is made up of these geological layers. Let's take a look at this chapel here. In Zumaya, we also visited the small chapel of San Telmo de Zumaya, which stands on a high cliff formed by the Flysch and is dedicated to the patron saint of sailors. It is a very modest chapel, but it is known for its incredibly picturesque location, making it one of the most photographed chapels in Spain. The ideal time to visit this chapel is during the St. Telmo festival, which is celebrated on the first Monday after Easter Monday. During the event, the inhabitants of Zumaya walk in procession to the chapel dressed in the blue aranzale, and an orchestra plays the March of San Telmo along the way. The Chapel of San Telmo was also chosen as the venue for the wedding of the characters in the popular movie Spanish Affair. And of course, we couldn't leave Guipúzcoa without stopping in San Sebastian. Known as Donostia in Basque, this is without a doubt one of the most special places in all of Spain. Its majestic and elegant atmosphere has fascinated visitors from all over the world since the middle of the 19th century when it became a popular tourist destination for aristocrats. If its palaces, festivals, and beaches aren't good enough reason to come here, San Sebastian has the second highest concentration of Michelin star restaurants per square meter in the world, second only to Kyoto. We promise you'll fall in love with the local cuisine. In addition to the famous La Concha beach, considered one of the best city beaches in Europe, there's also Ondarreta Beach, located on the western side of the bay, which is one of the best beaches in the Basque Country. Walking along its promenade, we reach the Comb of the Wind. We've walked all the way along there to the end here to see Chirida's famous artwork. This installation is called the Comb of the Wind and consists of two parts. These structures over here represent the combs, and you can get a good look at them here. Notice how they are embedded into the rocks. As I've mentioned before, this sculptor always tried to unite his art with nature. And down here is the second part of this installation, and I'll show it to you up close. See these things with holes in them? They use the force of the waves as they crash onto the wall and create a flow of wind. Sometimes you can hear a rumble from the holes. Sometimes a sudden shot of air comes out. People stand there to feel it. Whoa! On the last day, we were very lucky to witness the most famous competition in the Basque Country, La Bandera de la Concha. This is a rowing regatta held on the first two Sundays of September in La Concha Bay in San Sebastian. This event was first organized in 1879 as part of San Sebastian's summer festivities program and evolved from a particular trade, fishing in the sea. This profession required strong and hardy men able to row for hours until they reached the catching grounds. And after the fish were caught, they would return to the port in boats loaded to the brim with it and immediately start selling their catch. With the invention of the motor, there was no longer any need for rowing by hand, but in later years, the world of regattas still remained closely connected to fishing. Professional athletes were trained by the best fishing crews, and even today, the top rowing athletes are members of the clubs established in towns with long fishing tradition. Because of this historical background, La Bandera de la Concha has become the spectacle of the year in the Basque Country. So the atmosphere during these races is fantastic, and we highly recommend you to come one day and see it yourself. And on that note, we're leaving Spain and preparing for new adventures. On our next trip, we will be visiting the United States again to see some exciting places. And personally, I would like to say goodbye to you and thank you for watching our previous trips. On our next trips around the world, starting in the new year, you will be accompanied by my friend Luis. He's a really nice and fun guy, so I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Don't miss it! And of course, if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the bell so you don't miss our new videos. A big hug from me, and see you soon, travelers!